contract. So there's very little that the federal government's looking for that we don't do in this state. We have such talent. We have companies here that are building components for the space shuttle, for example. And we have companies here that still build the big basic heavy steel for earth moving equipment. So we can do everything in between. Now the how to get into it, if you in your district, if you call into the right place and ask for the PTAC, that's PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, we better stick with PTAC. Sarah will take that call. She'll get you into the right classes if that's what you need. She'll give you the right forms. She'll coach you through filling those forms out. Eventually, she'll come and visit your company. And by eventually, I mean fairly quickly, because I need those companies. And she will help you describe yourself, what it is you do, where you do it, what you do it with, how many people, what certifications do you have. And all that goes into a thing that we call the Michigan Capabilities and Capacities Directory. And that directory is being provided free to the primes and to the, in auto speak, the automaker or their first or second tiers, depending on where you are in that process. But it's provided to the General Dynamics and the BAEs and the AM General kind of companies. It's also provided to all of the supply centers and the maintenance depots. What that allows them to do is quickly take a look at all the Michigan companies using a very, very capable search engine that will look for you according to what you do, what kind of machinery you have, if you're one of the small business set-aside categories, where you do it. Are you close to the railheads? Are you close to the air? Are you close to the sea? And this becomes important because if we're going to put together a supply chain, we certainly want the powder coater to be near he who's manufacturing. And we'd like the packing, packaging, and preservation guy to be somewhere near so we can minimize those costs. That all goes into reducing our price points so that we're more competitive for our companies from the state.
So some of these contracts that some of the folks might get eventually, let's say they go through this process, you know, I'm thinking right now many of them are, a contract might be for a month or 6 months. What kinds of lengths of period and what are those contracts might, you know, what might they look like if you're dealing with the military?
Wonderful question. Absolutely wonderful question. The government's not tied to model years, and that helps a great deal. Right now in acquisition, it benefits the acquisition officer, that person responsible for finding the companies and matching them up to do this job. It behooves them to find a company and stay with them for years and years and years. So many of the small contracts may be for a certain number, so it'd be a short run. But when you start getting to the mid-sized contracts, and that's where we're directing people, we're finding lots of 3-year contracts. I can tell you that I just completed a contract that came in, and we were delighted with this one. It was a 5-year contract with 4 5-year options. And the day we went to sign, the government's rep said, "Would you be willing to exercise your first 5-year option today?" So we signed a 10-year contract with 3 5-year options behind it. So that tells you where you can go. There's a lot more stability in doing business with the federal government. The federal government does not want to take you down to a 0.5% of margin. They want you to stay healthy. They want you to have enough margin in your price so that you can recapitalize, so that you can train your workforce and take care of your company. And as an acquisition officer, if I find that's not the case, then I have to worry that your company won't be here in 2 years. I'd rather pay you an additional amount in margin, but know that you'll be the guy that I'll see for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years every time I look up for that part. The government pays on time. Most of them are net 30, but they're all electronic, so in truth it's about net 5. And unlike other kinds of industries, if the federal government fails to pay you on time, then on that very first day you begin to accrue interest on your money, which is a surprise to many of the companies if they get in a situation where they're not paid on time. And it's all electronic. It's much easier than it was 20 years ago. So your company should not fear that. They should go see a PTAC, see how easy it is, and become one of our suppliers.
All right, that's some very exciting news. Thinking about some of these contracts, and Michigan is a large state. We look like a mitten with a few other pieces added to it. And I've been to Southeast Michigan. I know there's Automation Alley, and there's tremendous manufacturing over there, engineering, things like that. West Michigan, we're known for the making of furniture, but we have a lot of manufacturers of lots of different parts, whether healthcare and other things like that, and manufacturers for the auto industry. Your sense of where do you find a lot of the companies that fit what you're trying to do here? And I'm looking for how can we make West Michigan a good place for you to find the suppliers that you're looking for. So, kind of what's happening in Michigan now.
Sure.
You're finding them maybe in a particular area. Maybe there's some indicators of why that's happening, and maybe we can learn from that. Or maybe it's happening here, and I know of a couple. So, if you could just kind of expand on that a little bit.
We're finding capability and capacity all over the state. And I mean from Detroit up to Marquette, from Onaway in the center at the top of the mitten, and certainly in West Michigan. We have found not just what people have been building and now they can build or provide a service to the federal government, but we've found some innovations. We found a composite material on the Upper Peninsula. It's probably the lightest, most capable armor that's been built to date. And there's a lot of hope for where they'll go with their product. We have a steel recipe that right now appears to be the only one in the world that can stop a particular important round. They're from up in Petoskey. So we find a little bit everywhere. I have had the good fortune to travel some in West Michigan. I've worked with a number of companies here. We've got two companies just south of Grand Rapids that have been into doing weapons components and some aviation components. We've got a lot of very good manufacturing companies in West Michigan that can do the precision that's required. Not just simply stamping, but very precise stamping. And if I could give just one example to this one, there was a particular round that was required, a 40 millimeter round, and its accuracy was good out to about 400 meters. And in the process of building a component, which was subcontracted to a company in Holland, they did such a precise job on the piece that they built that they took that round from a 60% reliability rate to a perfect score of 100. And we have several 100,000 rounds now have been fired. They still have a perfect score. And as part of their work, that precision allowed the round to ignite more precise, which meant you could put more powder in it, which meant you could throw the warhead farther out. That now has become an 800-meter weapon.
Wow.
So precision has a lot to do with what we're looking for, and we find precision manufacturing in West Michigan. And my favorite story is of success here, because I sought these boots out while I was on active duty, is Wolverine Boot Company right here in West Michigan. What a fabulous company, and they build a product that's second to none. And every time I get a chance to tell my colleagues back in the Marine Corps and those I know in the Army about our Wolverine, I do, because they make a superb product. They are now building boots for, I believe now they are building them for all 4 services, and we're going to continue to press that one.
So again, probably a very long contract, because they want that quality, if you will.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, great. One of the things that I find in the legislature is people often want to know about numbers. And so you and I have spent a lot of time, because you're in my budget, and we've talked about numbers and all those kinds of things. But you have a very small staff, actually, in my mind anyway, when I look at state government. With, I have Human Services, which is 50,000 employees throughout the state of Michigan. Tell me a little bit about your staff, and then if you could give me a sense, or give our viewers a sense of, just a few years ago, there was nobody was really tracking this as a state. We've begun to track it, and I don't know whether we can say that we started at 0, probably not, but there was probably a fairly small number. But you have a very ambitious goal, and you've been meeting those goals. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about what's been happening in contracts in Michigan, some of those numbers, but tell a little bit about your staff also.